Assalamu alaikum. Today our topic of discussion is cardiac cycle. First of all, we will discuss the definition of cardiac cycle. Cardiac events that occur from beginning of one heartbeat to the beginning of next are called cardiac cycle. So these are the events from beginning of one heartbeat to the beginning of next. And its time duration is 0.8 seconds. As you know, there are totally 72 beats in a minute, and in each minute there is 60 seconds. So when you divide 60 by 72, you get 0.8 seconds. So in one cardiac cycle has a duration of 0.8 seconds as 60 divided by 72. This is the basic knowledge that how the blood flows in the heart from starting from the body, comes into right atrium, then right AV valve into right ventricle, and then into pulmonary trunk through the semilunar valve, that is pulmonary valve, and from lungs oxygenated blood comes in the left atrium, and then through the left AV valve into the left ventricle, and then into the aorta through aortic valve, and then to the body. So this is the pathway of blood in the heart. There is a concept of diastole and systole. Systole is the contraction of cardiac muscles. During the contraction, there is pumping of blood from the heart, and during the relaxation period, that is diastole, relaxation of the heart muscles, and in this there is filling of blood in the heart. So systole is contraction and diastole is relaxation of cardiac muscles. These are the events of cardiac cycle. Two major events, ventricular systole and ventricular diastole. As you see that ventricular systole is of 0.27 seconds, ventricular diastole is of 0.53 seconds. And when you combine both of these, then it becomes 0.8 seconds. So ventricular systole contains isovolumetric contraction and ejection period, and ventricular diastole contains isovolumetric relaxation, rapid filling, slow filling. The other name is diastasis and atrial systole. So these are the events of cardiac cycle. Total 6 events. Now you will see these events in a diagram after this slide. Events of cardiac cycle are pressure changes, volume changes, ECG changes, and production of heart sounds. During each phase, we will discuss all these 4 parameters. Now we discuss on the diagram that how these phases are formed. This is the diagram. This is known as pressure volume changes during cardiac cycle. So as the previous slide tell you that we will discuss pressure changes, volume changes, ECG changes, and heart sounds during each phase. So firstly, we discuss pressure volume changes. This diagram shows that this diagram starts from here, where there is a AV valve closure. First of all, AV valve is closed, and you see that on y-axis there is pressure in millimeter of mercury, on x-axis there is volume in milliliter. So first phase, as you see in the previous slides, is isovolumetric contraction. That is during ventricular systole. That is the phase of ventricular systole. So this line goes up. You can see here there is no change in volume. Volume remains constant. As the name shows that iso means same. So the volume remains same, but you see that pressure increases and increases at the level of 80. You can see here, this is 80. You can correspond from here to here. The pressure rises to 80 millimeter of mercury in the ventricles, which is equivalent to the pressure of aorta and pulmonary arteries. Aorta in case of left side and pulmonary arteries in case of right side. And at the level of 80 millimeter of mercury pressure, the semilunar valves open. In case of right side of the heart, pulmonary valves open, and in case of left side of the heart, aortic valves open. And when these valves open, they open when the pressure rises from the 80 millimeter of mercury. That is, 80 is the pressure of ventricles, and above 80, when the pressure goes above 80, that is actually 80 pressure millimeter of mercury is the pressure of aorta and pulmonary arteries. And when the pressure rises from 80, then in the ventricles, then the blood moves from ventricles into the aorta and into the pulmonary trunk. So there is the period of ejection period. There is rapid ejection and then slow ejection. You can see that the pressure rises from 80 millimeter of mercury to almost 120 millimeter of mercury. You can correspond like this. The pressure becomes 120 millimeter of mercury. So when the pressure reaches then again to 80 millimeter of mercury after the ejection period becomes over. So at this point, you can see that the semilunar valves, pulmonary in case of right ventricle, right side, and aortic in case of left side becomes closed. At the ejection period, they become open and the blood moves out of the ventricle into the aorta and pulmonary trunk. So when ejection period is over, the valves are closed, and then you can see that there is a phase of isovolumetric relaxation. During this phase, the pressure decreases. You can see this arrow downward. Pressure decreases, but again the volume remains constant. In this phase, both AV valve and semilunar valves are closed. And after isovolumetric relaxation occurs, the AV valves open and there is the period of rapid ventricular filling. There is filling. You can see that rapid inflow, and then there is slow inflow. The other name is diastasis, and then there is atrial systole. So you can see that the whole cardiac cycle having pressure and volume changes, how the pressure changes and how the volume changes. You can see here there is volume same, pressure increase during isovolumetric contraction. During ejection period, you can see that the volume decreases. Volume moves towards 0. And during isovolumetric relaxation, volume remains same, but pressure is decreasing. And during your filling phase, you can see that the volume is increasing. Okay. So you can see that how the pressure volume changes during each phase of cardiac cycle. This is very important diagram. Now we one by one moves towards, that is the pressure changes in the atria. There are actually 3 waves: A wave, C wave, and V wave. A wave during atrial systole, C wave at the beginning of ventricular systole, and V wave at the end of ventricular systole. So you can see these waves in this diagram. This is the major diagram of the Guyton. You can see here, these are this red line is of pressure, ventricular pressure. You can see here ventricular pressure, and this blue line is of ventricular volume. Okay, and this black dotted line represents the atrial pressure. You can see here A wave, C wave, and V wave. This picture is also corresponding with this picture. You can see here that is AV valve is closed, isovolumetric contraction, then aortic valve open, and then ejection. You can see here AV valve close, isovolumetric contraction here from this to this, isovolumetric contraction, and then aortic valve open, and then there is rapid ejection and slow ejection, and at this aortic valve close. You can now see here at the end of ejection period you see aortic valve close, and then there is isovolumetric relaxation, then AV valve open, then rapid inflow, diastasis, atrial systole. You can also correspond these phases in this picture. Aortic valve close, isovolumetric relaxation, isovolumetric relaxation from this to this. You can see here isovolumetric relaxation. Then AV valve open, likewise in the previous picture, and AV valve open, then rapid inflow, then diastasis, and then atrial systole. And you see here the A wave during atrial systole, atrial contraction, C wave during ventricular contraction, isovolumetric contraction or ventricular contraction, this is C wave, and at the end of, and this one, at the end of isovolumetric contraction, there is V wave. You can see in the previous slide. A wave atrial systole, C wave beginning of ventricular systole, and V wave is the end of ventricular contraction. And you can see here the volume. Volume is opposite to the pressure. As you know that pressure is inversely proportional to volume. As you can see here, pressure is rising, but volume is same because this phase is isovolumetric. But when the pressure rises in ejection period, the volume decreases. And during this phase, this is the isovolumetric relaxation, pressure is decreasing, but this is isovolumetric, so the pressure remains same. But during this rapid inflow, where there is a filling in the ventricles, there is, as the blood comes in the ventricle, their volume is increased. And this also here in diastasis, there is also slight increase, and in atrial systole, there is also slight increase. And you see here the atrial systole. In atrial systole in atrial systole, the pressure is about 4 to 5 millimeter of mercury on the right side, and there is a pressure of 6 to 8 millimeter of mercury on left side of the atria. So this is the diagram. There is the ECG, and these are the heart sounds, which we will discuss in the next lecture.